Hi there, I'm Danny Flexen. Welcome to the latest edition of Seconds Out Flexpectations. We're here every Thursday, 4:30 p.m. to look ahead to the boxing action of the weekend. And there's a big, potentially history-making world title fight on Saturday night from Dubai, but broadcast live and free on UK television on Channel 5 from 10 o'clock UK prime time, which is always a good thing. We get to see Carl Frampton try and become the first ever three-weight world champion from Ireland as he challenges for the WBO Super Featherweight Championship against Jamel Herring, the champion, former Marine from the US. Really intriguing fight. Frampton has won world titles previously at Super Bantamweight. I'm sure most people will remember that incredible victory, repeat victory, in fact, over Kiko Martinez to win his first world title in a purpose-built venue in Belfast. Really memorable night, great atmosphere. You remember when fans were allowed into arenas? Well, that was a great example of what they can add to an event. And then moved up to featherweight and got the career best victory over Leo Santa Cruz, which was later avenged, of course, by the Mexican-American. And Frampton since has been still mixing at world-class level. Obviously, most recently challenged Josh Warrington for his world title down at featherweight. And we saw him out-muscled and out-fought, I think it's fair to say. Was just given a real shellacking by Warrington in the first couple of rounds. Did well to stay in the fight and actually make inroads in the middle rounds, but still came up short via decision in the end. But didn't crumble and certainly held his own. And since then, we've seen him only a couple of times. He's fought kind of once a year since, partly due to the pandemic, partly due to injury, which we'll talk about a bit more in a minute. But most recently, we saw him dispatch an overmatched Darren Trainer last August in a fight to keep him busy while waiting for the Herring fight to be given a date and a fixed venue, which it now has. Originally, the fight was going to go ahead around a month beforehand, but Frampton was injured. It was going to be in the UK on a Frank Warren Queensbury promotion show, but after Frampton's injury, the whole show was moved to Dubai. We now get to see Tyrone McKenna, big friend of the channel, someone I've got a lot of time for. He fights a tough fight against Zankosh Turarov, who's unbeaten but largely unproven and hasn't been particularly active. So that'll be an interesting fight on the undercard. But really, this is mostly a show about the main event. As I say, potential history making for Frampton, but no less motivation for Herring. He's retained his championship twice since beating Masayuki Ito for the belt. Firstly against Laurent Roach, who was his mandatory, and then a really messy fight last September against Jonathan Oquendo. Lots of clinching and fouling throughout. Eventually, Oquendo was disqualified in round 8. So second successful defence there for Herring, but having spoken to him since, you can see the interview on the channel, he was quite frustrated with his performance in that fight. And I think he's been frustrated generally waiting for this Frampton fight to finally come to fruition. It's a fight that, although he's the defending champion, he has a lot to gain from because Frampton is the bigger name, obviously a two-weight world champion in his own right, and it will be the biggest victory, certainly on paper, in Herring's pro career. Now, Herring was a long-time amateur, but as a pro, has had fewer fights than Frampton, and certainly been in fewer tough, grueling fights. You know, those contests with Josh Warrington, the 2 fights with Santa Cruz, those 3 particularly, will have put some miles on the clock of Frampton, who's a year younger at 34. Herring, as I say, long-time amateur, but just looks the fresher of the 2. You know, had some comprehensive victories before ascending to world title level. Was fighting kind of 10-rounders and so on, still against decent opposition, but not the level that Frampton was fighting at. Obviously, there's advantages in that for Frampton as well. Frampton now trained by Jamie Moore, of course, after a long period under Shane McGuigan and Jerry Story previous to that. Seems to have really gelled with Moore, has adapted his game, boxes more now, probably steps off a bit more than he did in the past, but mixes it up. A real kind of rounded, complete box fighter, compact, defensively responsible, maybe not so much in the first couple of rounds against Warrington, but Warrington's a buzzsaw at his best, a world-class buzzsaw at his best, and I think his all-out assault would have unsettled most fighters at world level. Frampton, yeah, very good fighter, packed a lot of power, real big puncher at super bantamweight, perhaps slightly less so at feather, where he wasn't hurting his opponents quite as often. And you'd have to speculate that up at super feather, his punches will have even less effect against the bigger, more durable fighters that he's going up against. He didn't look like a big featherweight against Josh Warrington, who is, a big 126 pounder. And against Herring, against whom he concedes, 5 inches in height, 7 inches in reach, and someone who's always in incredible shape, as you'll see from the pictures on Twitter we saw earlier this week. People actually worried about Herring. His body fat percentage appears to be so low. But yeah, always in incredible shape. And Frampton's conceding those physical advantages. He'll need to be at his very best. He'll need to show all of that excellent footwork, shot selection and accuracy for which he has become known. As for Herring, he's been training for a while now in that Bomat camp alongside one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, Terence Crawford, sparring Crawford on a regular basis as well, which will only help his development. Southpaw Herring has got a great attitude, even though he's been in the sport for a long time, amateur and pro. He still feels he's got much to learn, still keen to improve his game. And even though Frampton had a little kind of dig at him on social media saying, well, I don't think you'll be winning many of those spars with Crawford, sharing the ring with someone of that caliber is only going to help Herring to get better. And when he gets in the ring with Frampton, it should be very interesting fight, because you've got a guy who knows how to use his height and reach against a guy who historically has known how to get inside taller opponents and make his own shots count. I slightly favour Herring. He's more accustomed to the weight. He's the naturally bigger guy. He's fresher in his career. And I think moving the fight out of the UK, even though there would have been no fans anyway, but to Dubai, I think it makes it more neutral territory. I think there's less in that sense for Herring to be concerned about. It's obviously on TV, both on Channel 5 here, ESPN Plus in the States. So people will be watching. Top Rank are very much involved in the promotion alongside D4G and MTK. And Top Rank obviously are backing both fighters. They have both fighters under contract. So a really intriguing fight. A very simple one this week. I want to know from you guys what you think will happen, who will win and how. Let me know in the comment section below. It's a fight I'm really looking forward to. It's gone under the radar a bit, perhaps because it wasn't going to be scheduled to be on UK TV until just this week. But it shouldn't be under the radar. It's one of the best fights so far in 2021. And I expect it will deliver in the ring as well. So yeah, let me know what you think is going to happen in the comments below. And I'll be back on Monday for reflections, looking back on that fight among others. I'll certainly be watching. Remember, Channel 5, 10 o'clock Saturday night. And come back on Thursday as well at 4:30 PM, where it will be the next Flexpectations, where we'll look forward to the Conor Benn headlined Matchroom show, among other action. Really appreciate your time, as always, and I will see you all soon. Cheers.